regional projects. My name is Rebecca Sterneman, and I'm going to be presenting on behalf of SPREP in the English language. If you're interested in hearing about this in French, SPREP has made a great presentation in French for you, so just swap over to that one. So, what is the Kiwa Initiative? That's what we're going to be addressing first of all, and the call for regional projects. We're also going to be covering what is a nature-based solution and how is an effective tool for climate change adaptation. We'll be then going over the concept note template, the form you have to fill out and submit, and its key elements. And then we're going to cover the technical assistance available from SPREP and SPC. We're going to cover a number of questions which have been provided by listeners, and that might help clarify certain aspects for you. So welcome to the Kiwa Initiative 2024 Call for Regional Projects. What is the Kiwa Initiative? Well, it is a pot of money which aims at improving biodiversity protection and climate change adaptation using nature-based solutions. That's combining or considering how to improve the conditions for people using nature-based solutions and really taking into account these climate change effects in the Pacific. This fund is made possible because of 5 international donors. Those are France, the European Union, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. It was officially launched in 2020 and it covers a budget of 77 million euros. Now, to be eligible, you have to be part of the 18 countries, 15 Pacific Island countries and 3 French territories. We've got 2 different types of funds. We've got our local projects, which cover between 25 to 400 euros. And then we have our large regional grants for regional projects, and that's the ones that we're putting the call out for at the moment and is currently open. That's for projects which are between 1.5 million euro to 5 million euro. So, we're part of the, I'm part of the technical task force made out of SPC and SPREP, and we're supported by the Secretariat of the Kiwa Initiative. And then they feed back up to the donors who are managed through AFD. So, who is AFD? They're the Agency of French Development, who are the public and financial institution that implements France's policy in the areas of development and international solidarity. And they have regional offices based in Mia in New Caledonia and in French Polynesia. Now we've got a few questions. People would like to ask us to expand further on the funding aspect and on climate change and adaptation and biodiversity. So this grant is aimed for solutions for climate change adaptation. These are actions which must contribute to at the same time to climate change adaptation, biodiversity conservation, meaning enhancing ecosystems in ways that contribute to communities' resilience. We're going to go over this in more detail in the next session, or section, sorry. Does the project have to meet all 3 criteria? Yes,
proposals must meet all 3 criteria. It has to involve climate change, adaptation, biodiversity, and include components of gender, equality, disability, and social inclusion. What's the typical funding total for the approved projects? It depends on the countries and the activities to be funded and the scale also. There's been a question asking if UN agencies are eligible to apply, and yes, they are. UN agencies with an office in the region can apply. Can Pacific Islands be involved despite being outside the 18 eligible countries, e.g. Cook Islands? Though Cook Islands are not eligible anymore, meaning there's no activity can be implemented in the Cook Islands, they can be involved in a project if there's a benefit to that project, for instance, lessons sharing or expertise, but they can't be the focus of the project. One question is, are universities eligible, and would an academic institution based in Australia who operates in the Pacific be eligible as a lead applicant? Universities as public institutions are eligible, but provided they have an office in the Pacific to be considered. Can a province apply with another country, or does it have to be at a national level? Yes, local authorities, including provinces, are eligible as a project lead for a regional project, but you need to have the capacity to manage and report on funds spent in another country. Can the same organisation apply for both regional and single country calls? Yes, an organisation that has recently received funding can apply for regional projects, provided there's no double funding, duplication of activity, and that the ability to scale up the local project via the regional project is demonstrated. Noting as well that the Kiwa board will pay more attention to partners that are not already receiving funding from Kiwa. For organisations that have not yet applied to a local grant via IUCN, there's no issue with submitting through both windows. So now I'm going to go into more depth as to what a nature-based solution for climate change adaptation actually is. Nature-based solutions are defined by the IUCN as action to protect, sustainably manage and restore natural or modified ecosystems that address societal challenges effectively and adaptatively. You can think of them as things which address water security problems or environmental degradation and biodiversity loss, or even human health or economic and social development. But nature-based solutions must deliver in both human well-being and biodiversity benefits. That's where they're different from other ecosystem services, for instance. So why nature-based solutions in Pacific? Why is this needed? It's because in the Pacific we have extreme climate change vulnerability, and we also have a rich biodiversity, and the two can work in hand, where our biodiversity can protect us from some of the climate change effects. There's also reliance on communities on ecosystem services, so they're particularly important. This can also be a long-term and cost-effective way to manage impacts of climate change. And there's also many co-benefits, including gender equality and social inclusion. So here's some examples of nature-based solutions. We have ecosystem restoration, for instance, control of invasive species, and then this in turn can be beneficial for the society. We can have infrastructure-related approaches, for instance, natural and green infrastructures, reefs or mangroves, which help protect societies from storms or flooding and things like that. Then we've got ecosystem-based management approaches, such as integrated coastal zone management or integrated water resource management, again protecting those zones from the effects of climate change. There's also ecosystem protection, area-based conservation approaches, which can result in big societal changes, as solutions to some of society's challenges. For instance, water catchment management then has repercussions for reducing flooding effects on people downstream and also improving access to clean water. And that's what, these are some of the examples of some of these big regional projects. For instance, we've got some watershed ones and some agroforestry projects, and then some on coastal marine benefits. So there's lots of these projects already occurring, and sometimes it's about scaling up a small successful project across a region, and that's what there's already been occurring for some of these Kiwa projects. So why cover gender equality, disability, and social inclusion? It's because environmental and social issues cannot be separated, and a thriving planet cannot be one that contains widespread human suffering or restricts human potential. And humanity also can't exist on a dying planet. So this approach really considers all of those, and that has to be considered as part of this project. You have to design projects which are rights-based, gender-responsive, and socially inclusive. So now we're going to go over a few more questions. Are projects on food security eligible? Noting that the next EU funding will focus on greening and bluing food systems. Yes, projects on food security are eligible, provided they meet the main criteria of climate change adaptation, meaning that they contribute to addressing current or future climate change impacts. Where relevant, other complementary sources of funding should be highlighted. Can we conduct studies under this initiative to see where NBS best suits our countries? Studies can be included if they're directly linked with NBS activities to be implemented by the project as Kiwa prioritises actions. That's really what the issues that we want to address. So it's not really this is not really a fund for doing research. This is a fund for really undertaking the actions. Countries can get in touch with SPREP and SPC for assistance if needed to conduct general scoping or pre-feasibility studies for nature-based solutions. Someone's asked, on the gender component, if there's no data on gender participation in the area where our proposed project will be based, can getting baseline data and designing a gender inclusive strategy part of the project? And the answer to that is yes. Projects can include funding for initial GEDZ analysis in the inception phase. Noting that this analysis should help in implementing GEDZ responsive nature-based solutions during the project duration though. Would a certificate scheme for carbon storage for forestry conservation and replanting be eligible? Climate funds, In the case of a certification scheme, the benefits of biodiversity and adaptation, not only for mitigation, must be clear, as well as the appropriate safeguards in place, especially regarding tenure and collective rights of the local Indigenous communities on their lands and resources. One question is education, distance education and linkages with traditional knowledge considered appropriate? And awareness and education can be included, provide they complement or lead to actions on the ground and benefit people in the Kiwa eligible countries. Linkages with traditional knowledge are included. But again, projects have to be around nature-based solutions. So yeah, and practical hands-on nature-based solutions components. Okay, next part. Now we're going to cover 2024 concept note template for regional projects. How do you go about submission and the key elements? Deadline. We're looking at the 15th of December, so you have to get it in on time. There's no extensions. Finalize submissions if you want to have them go to the Kiwa Initiative at this email. Don't send it to anyone else because it has to be submitted by the right, otherwise you're not eligible. Technical assistance is available through SPREP and SPC, but only until the 25th of November. So again, there's a hard deadline there. All stakeholders should be clearly involved in project design, so that is a must. Advantage of a regional approach should be clear. Don't just think that because there's funding for a regional approach, it has to demonstrate how that will be beneficial. The steps. Submission of the concept note, review of the proposals, the steering committee then has a look at it, then it gets appraised, and then they're signing of the final document. This does take some time, so I'm just giving you Indicative timeline that, this is a staged component. This is our concept note template. Make sure you have a good look over that, what is needed for that information. So you have and make sure that you cover what it asks for, the content maximum. You have to include the budget. Only 7% of the budget can be used for indirect costs. So make sure that that's okay with your organization. And then project partners can be co-grantees. You have to demonstrate links between project activities, outputs, and climate change adaptation. You need to have cost-effective nature-based solutions with measurable and multiple co-benefits. A contribution of projects to gender equality and social inclusion. You need to have active involvement of national, local, public authorities and institutions from design right in the beginning to implementation. You have to involve and consult local communities from design to implementation. Then there has to be alignment of the proposed projects with the relevant regional, national, and local policy frameworks. You need a clear alignment, including a contribution of relevant technical and local policies, and involve local stakeholders. You have to include a regional cooperative dimension between countries and or territories. And then the project has to be scalable with nature-based solutions during the project implementation period. You have to demonstrate an outcome-based approach based on a robust monitoring and evaluation framework. And you need to have sustainable proposed interventions. Yeah. So we've got a few more questions. Could you explain a little bit more on the regional approach with examples? So the regional approach means that there must be added value for the project partners and planned activities and working together at the regional level instead of operating in single country projects. For example, setting up networks to disseminate learnings and expertise, like the Pacific Organic Learning Farms Networks. There's some really good examples of regional projects online in the Kiwa website to give some idea. Or you could scale up or replicate a current approach, such as the ecosystem-based adaptation approach. Or there's one currently, which is a climate smart community-based fisheries project with Mycos. So they've all been successful projects which have been set up regionally. Another question, you've mentioned above including at least 2 eligible countries in the project. It is expected that the goals indicators should be the same for both of these countries? The indicators and objectives of the activity output can be specific to the country, but there should be a common indicators or outputs across them so that they're linked, so they're not just separate projects, which so you really need to have that regional approach. Someone's asked if they can include multiple project topics in a bundle, for example, mangrove preservation and water restoration. So nature-based solutions are context and site specific, and we have multiple co-benefits, meaning different ways it can address climate impacts on community. These different approaches and types of MBS can be included in one regional project. However, there has to be some coherence and common goals to make the regional approach work. Otherwise, you can just have single country projects and that would probably work easier or better. So there has to be some links between them. Will the funding be released in stages? It will be dispersed in several installments based on the schedule agreed with AFD. What's the typical level of overhead cost allowed? As we said before, the maximum level of overhead cost is 7% like other EU funded projects. And when does your local project round open if we find that it's not the best fit? The last call for local projects closed in November 2023 and there's no new date yet for the next one. So they'll be upcoming. So maybe get in contact with the IUCN if you're interested in those. Okay. technical assistance from SPREP and SPC. So that's our role. We can help you with your concept note submission and support beneficiaries to develop their Kiwa regional projects. So, but first you need to check that you meet the eligible criteria. Are you in the right location? Are you the right type of organisation? And are you covering the right themes? Do your activities meet the requirements? And do you have the capacity to coordinate a regional project? These are big and a lot of funding. You need to be able to demonstrate you can do this. So make sure that you have addressed all of those before you come to us. Make sure you read sure to see if you're eligible. And then save the date for the 21st of August, where we're going to really deep dive into how you'd design a project and how you'd fill out the technical thing. And we're going to also have a panel, I think, of people who've previously got projects, so you can learn a bit and ask them some questions. We had a few more questions here. What type of support can the technical team provide? We can provide feedback on project ideas per email and organise bilateral meetings, provided feedback on concept notes and support and partner search, etc. So at what point do you contact us for the support or guidance? Once you're familiarised with the requirements and criteria for the call and made sure that you are eligible, you can contact us. Do you provide support to countries in the proposal writing for the call? If so, what is the process? Yes, for countries, we provide dedicated assistance. You can contact us by email to discuss your project idea or concept note by the 25th of November for any new requests. And thank you very much from SPREP and SPC and the Kiwa Initiative. Good luck in your applications. Make sure you read the criteria for making sure you're eligible. But otherwise, we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.